earnings day, isn't it?
That's what I was just wondering. I think it might be. Tomorrow must be Apple. Amazon's going to be in there somewhere.
What is it? October 30th. That would be today.
Yep. Of course, right? It's going to be right in the middle of Windows Weekly or something.
Well, they didn't want to do it tomorrow because they got to all get dressed up for Halloween. Can you imagine like Satya dressed up as a vampire on that earnings call?
Honestly, yeah. Kind of good.
I bet they make money.
I think they're going to be okay.
I think so too.
I feel good about it. All right, so I got to talk to you about something.
So if it lasts more than 4 hours, what?
What's that?
Just kidding. Go on.
So I played Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I played part of the single player campaign using game streaming, like cloud gaming, as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it was playable. I also played maybe 3 or 4 matches with in multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Not as playable. I negative KDs there for the first couple of games. I finally eked out a positive game and then ended it on that note. But this inspired me to do something I have to do anyway because of I'm reviewing it. But I have one of the laptops I have here is a Zen 5, based whatever AMD Ryzen AI HX9 something, like really nice. And it's just a laptop, right? It's it looks like it's silver. It looks like a regular laptop. It's thin, normal, whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, this game in multiplayer runs at 120 something frames a second. Like, it's crazy. And it is awesome. Awesome. It's awesome. And
almost like saying PC gaming is superior to console gaming.
No, I mean, look, from a technical perspective, that's always been true. But the deal has been that you needed some big, thick something with a giant graphics card, et cetera, et cetera. This is integrated graphics. I mean, it's insanely good. And I just played one. I had to install this game. I installed the whole thing, so it was like 200 gigabytes or something. But I just played one. It was a hardcore team deathmatch game this morning, and I had the highest score in the game. My team lost, but I had the highest score in the game. Positive KD out of the gate. Haven't really seriously played this game in a couple of years almost, but the thing that is more impressive, I guess, is because it's like, you start out like you have nothing. You can't like even customize your loadout or anything, right? But it's just the quality of the thing is like when you start this game, I don't know if this is always you play it, you've seen this, I guess, like it asks me every single time I started if I want it like performance or graphics optimization or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I assume you can stop asking that question, but I chose performance, just, thinking whatever. But the graphics quality, it's like, this is definitely, I think it's better than Xbox. I mean, I've not played this game on the Xbox, but as far as, I'm playing Call of Duty games for a long time on Xbox Series X and then S. It's better looking. It was better looking. Like, it was really impressive. So I took some screenshots, obviously, and whatever, and I'll add a paragraph or two about this to the review for this laptop sometime this week. But yikes. Is really good.
Yeah, so, that's why I don't know why the next Xbox isn't just a PC that with an Xbox OS integration.
Because what if it's an ARM something, and what if, God help us, it could be something like a Switch where it could be mobile, and maybe there's a handheld version.
I hope they do not do that. Not the mobile part. I mean, like being the primary thing. That would be.
Yeah, right. I think the problem for Xbox or Microsoft is that in their desire for it to be on any screen, it's hard to imagine the Xbox dedicated console. You had the idea like maybe they should farm it out to hardware makers they do with PCs. Honestly, not a bad idea given that they never make money on these things. So maybe PC makers could be the ones, or hardware makers could be the ones to kind of determine what direction they go with that, and maybe that's just an option. So you can get, like we have those little Steam Deck type machines, whatever. I don't know, but I making this thing ARM would be all kinds of difficulty for all the obvious reasons, but it would also jumpstart an era of Xbox games that run natively on ARM, which would benefit ARM-based PCs as well, because those computers have good processors, good graphics, not like awesome, but good, and obviously excellent MPUs. But there's no doubt that this thing I'm using now, like the Surface laptop, could easily do what this other thing's doing. It's just that game does not run natively on ARM, so there's no way. Like, it would just be stupid. But what if it did? Right? I mean, that to me is, I don't want to say the benefit, but a benefit of them choosing that platform for the console, right? The next gen one.
One of the things that I wonder out loud, let's say they approach and say, we're going to do this. You know how much pushback they would get back from Intel and AMD, because gaming is like the last thing that x86 really has.
Yeah, but all right. So for example, AMD yesterday announced their earnings, right? And so this is this is a small company, right? It just is. It was $6 or $8 billion in revenues, under $1 billion in net income or profit, compared to NVIDIA, which it is trying to compete with in the cloud, and compared to Intel, which, yes, I know is struggling, but seriously, is still much bigger than AMD. It's still a very small company. And if you break down their revenues by business segment, one of the smaller ones is gaming. And one of the things that falls into there is Xbox, right? Because they provide the chipset inside the Xbox consoles today. That business, I don't remember the number, and it's not worth looking up, but it's down year over year, right? I'm sure if you went back a year, it would be down year over year. It's something that honestly is not doing great. I think that within the x86 space, AMD's done an awesome. I mean, look at the thing I'm using here, right? Yeah. It's awesome. So, okay, there is that, and you could make that case. But I think there's a broader thing going on with Microsoft and ARM, and I think that might take precedent. And this volume of this is so small. Like, they're better off selling this kind of thing to to HP and Lenovo and whomever else. They probably sell more AMD chips in a quarter to PC makers than they sell in a year or more to Xbox, right?
Yeah.
So I hear you, but and look, there's no doubt they want to go ARM. We've seen that from the leak stuff, right? But it's possible it's just not there yet, whatever. And then yes, so maybe, I don't know, maybe this explains what we're seeing now with Xbox. I think there's a little bit of a lull in the hardware, because they want to do this thing and it's just not really there. And we get this kind of soft refresh. It's not particularly exciting. We don't get a pro thing.
Yeah.
Or whatever you want to call that. Like the Xbox One X version of whatever we have now, like a Y or Z or whatever. I don't know. I mean, and who knows? Maybe that can still happen, but we'll see. Look, I'm sorry. The future of Xbox is multi-screen. And when you look at all the screens, the console is the small one,
Which is ironic, because it's usually attached to the biggest.
By volume. Sorry. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope we see an NVIDIA create. Oh gosh, if NVIDIA enters the goes up against Qualcomm, right? That sort of thing, like that.
Yep. Well, that, by the way, that's the other part of it, and AMD too, right? I mean, AMD could be part of this. So, we'll see. Maybe there's a hybrid chipset in the future for Xbox that literally enables native playing of what will then be legacy games, right? Today's games.
I mean, you could imagine an NVIDIA-based CPU, whatever they call it, attached to like a 3090. And that's even an older chip. Someone will say, look, there's 4090, but then there's what? Like 3090 would be more than sufficient for what these console games need.
I mean, think about how small, I'm sure if you broke down, and people have done this, like an Xbox Series XS, whatever, the motherboard itself is probably pretty small. Like the motherboards on laptops are small. Like most of the size is the battery, right? And some of the other hardware components. But, an Xbox, if you think about an Xbox Series X today, you're basically talking about like a giant heatsink and whatever cooling system on top of that graphics card that you just said, and or whatever graphics card that they could do. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just know from the leaks, we know what we saw, like, and from what they've said, Sarah Bond has been vocal but vague, but the next something that comes out of them from hardware is going to be whatever she said, the most amazing, advanced, blah blah blah, whatever. It's hard, we have to kind of wonder what she means exactly, but I think what she means, I think what they want is for that thing to be ARM.
NPU for sure.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, we can. That's another area where we can just dream, but this ability for AI generated, not just scenes, worlds, scenarios, whatever it is, side quests, all kinds of stuff. Like they're going to be whole just games, like just made that way eventually. But yeah, we'll see.
And then in classic Microsoft brand illusion, I love this. So they have this thing called Co-pilot, which is Microsoft's AI wizardry. And then there's also Co-pilot over on GitHub. And now Co-pilot over on GitHub cannot use OpenAI. It can actually use Google stuff. It can use Anthropic. It can use whoever, really, at this point. So Co-pilot is, it's just a front end at this point.
It's a front end. Yeah, I was like, how do we say this? It's it can plug into any AI.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, Co-pilot is the original, or GitHub Co-pilot is literally the original Co-pilot. It was the first one to use that brand and the first one kind of out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is a look at what the future of Co-pilot is more broadly, because I bet we'll see something similar. It's a good way to test it. It's a limited audience, but it's also a very limited data set, so it's really good to test against. And we'll find out that one of these randomly will just be awesome at this, compared to the other two, like whatever reason, like Anthropic, whatever it is, will be the one. Or maybe there are ones that are better for certain languages. I always go back to the same thing, though. I always think about this orchestrator term, that GitHub Co-pilot should orchestrate which backend to use based on what you're doing, right? And knowing, like, in other words, rather than you manually saying, well, I've read that this thing's better, it should just pick the one that's right for what you're doing at the time.
I want to create one of these agents, as they call them. So we've got Co-pilot or whatever, but it's going to be called Backseat Driver. And so when you enter a prompt, it just yells at you. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you should have turned there. Like,
yep. Like, just berates you.
Yeah. Good job not closing that.
They could just call it like spouse.